welcome to this 100% walkthrough guide for My Little Sister by How To Trophies. First, we'll start off by simply starting a new game. This is a traditional point and click adventure with elements of horror, similar to other games that you might have played from this same developer. So just dive right in. You can skip the text using the X button if you're on PlayStation, and then you'll come into your first scene. So the first scene is called Marketplace. We'll just need to simply skip through the text before we interact with the person on the left. Once you do that, you'll have some more dialogue. You can simply skip this, as I said, using the X button. There'll be quite a lot of that to do during this game. With the exclamation mark appears above the head, it means there is an interactable point available. So go down and interact with the person at the bottom left of the screen. And then you will get some chopsticks, which will go into your inventory. Press triangle to open your inventory, and you'll also earn a trophy called Yummy Noodles. That's your first trophy. On this game, there are 29 to collect in total. Once that trophy has unlocked, we can proceed to the top right corner of the screen, and we can use the chopsticks on the cage. This will bring up some more dialogue. As you go through that, use the chopsticks and use them to open the cage. I do have a little bit of trouble here with the mechanics, so you have to actually use the action mechanic on the chopsticks in order to use the chopsticks on the cage, whereas I was just actually repeating the dialogue choices. So always make sure you're using the action button in order to interact with the object and use it on another object. Once we've got the cage open, we can move away and move down to the bottom of the scene, and then we'll open this door right in front of us using the key that we gained from the crate that we opened with the chopsticks. I almost forgot there was a trophy for talking to the NPC in the top left corner once you've got the key, so don't go and open the door right away. Instead, go and chat with the NPC in the top left corner to unlock the next trophy. Once you engage in conversation with them, the trophy should unlock. There you are, and that's the trophy. Make sure you return it after you use it. After you've finished the conversation, move to the bottom of the scene and open the door where SOMBRIA will be hiding in the room behind the door. Finish the conversation and move into the room. Interact with the door in this room and you'll find another item. Proceed out and use the coat hanger that you just found on the grate that's at the bottom. You'll find another item and then move back to the top of the room to the vent in order to use the flashlight that you've got in the vent, which should help you crawl through. So you go into the vent, and that's this scene completed. The next scene is a bad dream. So again, we'll start with some dialogue. Then just simply click through that and we'll be into the next scene. Once that is finished, move through the door at the bottom and then to your right and down the stairs. Once at the bottom, move all the way through and out the door to outside the house and interact with SOMBRIA. You can press option to skip as well, as it says at the bottom of the screen. Once the conversation is completed, you do need to stay outside the house, so don't go back inside as I accidentally did there. You'll need to go to the rubbish bin at the left, the front one, and you'll need to pick up a bobby pin. Then you can go back through the door and go back up the stairs for the next section of the game. Go to the door on the right at the top of the stairs and use the bobby pin to unlock the door. You'll find a photo which will go into your inventory. Once you finish this dialogue, you will need to move back to the left and back down the stairs. At the bottom of the stairs, you'll get another section of dialogue which you can skip with the options button. Once this dialogue is complete, you will need to go through the door that's adjacent to the stairs on the right. Just a quick reminder to please like, share and subscribe to us here at How To Trophies, and leave us a comment in the comment section below. All your feedback is appreciated. Once you're through the door on the right and into the kitchen, simply interact with the fridge using the picture that is in your inventory from earlier. That will give you some more dialogue choices and should unlock a trophy called Finding Secrets. That's trophy number 3 already. Once you've finished the dialogue and you can move away, we'll go back out of the kitchen and back up the stairs. At the top of the stairs, go to your left and back into your bedroom. There'll be some more dialogue here. Once you've had the dialogue option, go back downstairs to find some milk. So go back into the kitchen and into the fridge. Once you finish the dialogue, you will get another scene which you can skip with SOMBRIA, where you go up to bed. And at the top of the stairs, go back and interact with the door to your bedroom, so you can go back to sleep. Simply interact with your bed for some more dialogue, and then again skip the next bit in order to get to the next playable scene. Once the dialogue is finished, come out of your room and go back downstairs. Again, there'll be another section of dialogue which you can skip through. As you can see, something has happened to SOMBRIA. But we'll go into the kitchen. And then through into the door at the top right. Once you finish the dialogue, move back and come out of the kitchen. And we'll go out of the front of the house, following the blood trails. Again, some more dialogue will be with us here. And there is a truck outside the front of the house. Interact with the back of the truck. And you'll find SOMBRIA sat inside the truck. After you finish the dialogue, you'll get a title screen with My Big Sister. And then you'll start the next chapter of the game. This game is split up into several different chapters. So there will be a chapter select at the end if you need it. Most of the endings do come in the last chapter though, so you should be okay. There are a couple of chapters I do have to come back to. This is one of them. So make all your dialogue choices. Or even just skip through the dialogue, sorry. Obviously you talking to your counsellor. Once that's finished, go to the toy box and get the doll out of the toy box and present it to the counsellor. Go back and this will trigger some more dialogue. Once that's complete, the trophy should unlock. You chose the doll. As I said, we'll be back in this scene later for one of the other trophies, as it is a different choice you can make. Head out of the door. Once we are in this next room with the person sat on the couch, we will need to interact with the object to the left of them. This will give you some more dialogue. You'll also unlock another trophy called Is That a Jit reference. Once you've interacted with that, head out the door at the bottom, and this will give you another section of dialogue you can skip. Although don't actually head out, or head into the bathroom at the top right. Interact with the toilet. This developer really likes to interact with toilets in these games. If you've played Just Ignore Them, you'll know. So once you've interacted with the toilet and picked up the object, interact with the door to leave, and you'll get some more dialogue, and the bathroom will fill with blood, and you'll get a crazy version of SOMBRIA. Just skipping through the dialogue. As it appears, she explodes. But is that real or is that not? Who knows? So exit through the door at the bottom of the room once the scene is finished. And then again exit through the door at the bottom using the therapy key. After some more dialogue, you'll be able to go into the next area. In between this and the next scene, we get some screens of yourself and SOMBRIA travelling in what looks like the back of a van. You can simply skip these by using the options button, and then they fall asleep before arriving in the next area. As you arrive in the bathhouse, you'll also be able to skip the interaction with the woman in the tub, and then you'll unlock the trophy. Once you finish the dialogue with SOMBRIA, you can move to the south and to the east of the room, and then move to the north in order to look through the hole that you can see in the far right corner. This should unlock you your next inventory item. So just interact with the hole in the wall, and after the dialogue, you'll unlock your next item. Now we're going to go to the dead fish, which is slightly to the south, and interact with that to put that in our inventory. And then to get the next trophy, we'll interact with the sink to the left, and that will get us our next trophy. It's just a sink, great. So once that is completed, we'll move back to the south and go through the door into the corridor. The SP is a save point, but we're not going to use that for now. We will go all the way to the end of the corridor and go through the door to the south. Once you're in the bathhouse reception area, go to the storage locker by the logo, and you'll find another item in this storage locker. Once you've unlocked that, go to the bin, and that's an area with another item which you can also pick up. So getting a few items in our inventory now. Once you've got those two items, you can head back out the door, go to the right, and not the first door, but the second door you're going to want to enter into the locker room. Go to a locker on the far left and interact with it. You won't be able to do this on the first occasion. You need another item, so exit the room and go back to the room with SOMBRIA in. Go and interact with SOMBRIA, and she will give you a bobby pin, which is the next item you need to unlock the locker. So once you've got that, go back to the south and out of the door and back to the locker room that we're in initially. Back to the left and the locker. Use the bobby pin on the locker. And that will yield you another item. Once the item has been picked up, we can exit the locker room and go back to the room that SOMBRIA is in. But this time we're going to go to the left of SOMBRIA into a room where we find a butcher, demon butcher. Skip the dialogue and go to the noodle bowls. Interact with those to pick those up to add them to your inventory. And then we'll go and interact with the butcher. You're going to want to give him the dead fish. This will unlock a trophy. Asking for help is the next trophy that you've unlocked. And then we want to stay with the butcher, and next time we want to give him the mask. Just interact again with him and give him the mask, as that's the next item that you need to progress the story. Just click through the dialogue and you'll be given another item at the end of the dialogue. Continue to talk to the butcher. There's quite a bit of dialogue for this character. And then exit from the bottom. Again, go back to the hole in the wall that we were looking in previously and interact with that again. So instead of going back into the butcher's room like I do here, we actually need to head back south and through back into the corridor where we were originally. I am going to make a save with the SP icon while I am in this corridor. You don't need to do this, but this bit can be a bit random, so I chose to make a save just in case anything went wrong. I didn't unlock the next set of trophies or anything that I needed from this next section. So you could choose to make that save or not, and then move to the far left and interact with the wall. Once you've interacted with it, use the knife to cut a hole in the wall, and then you'll be able to go through the wall. Equip the flashlight so you can see where you're going, and you'll find the demon tied up with a circle around it. Now this bit is a little bit of RNG, so your answer may be different to my answer, so hence why the save, just in case I got the wrong answer while I was answering this next question. So continue to talk to the tied up demon. Once the dialogue is complete, you will be able to open your inventory and pick one of the things that you have picked up in order to give it to the demon to progress into the next area. As I mentioned, there are more than one answer to this, so it could be a different answer to you. For me, I picked the dead fish, which was correct. There is some clues in the dialogue, so if you could pick up on them, then it should make it easier to get this puzzle right. Once you've finished, skip through the dialogue and you'll get another item. And then head out of the room and back into the previous corridor that you were in. Once you're in the corridor, move to the right and through the doors back into the bathhouse where the lady was at the start of the scene. Go to the north and to the face and put the red tile into the face, which will open another door. Along this big long corridor, just keep walking. Eventually at the end of this corridor you'll come to another swimming pool where you'll find SOMBRIA tied up with a lady in the middle of the water. Skip through the dialogue in this scene and then SOMBRIA will break out of the wall. And inevitably kill the lady in the middle of the pool, and that will be the end of this level. Next level is called Escape. Go and talk to SOMBRIA, which you can skip with the options button. Then what we'll need to do is we need to get the electric thing out of the water. At first we need to take the water out of the pool, so we'll interact with this plank to pick it up to make a bridge. So once the item is in your inventory, go to the north and then the east and put the plank over the water. This will allow you to cross over and get through the door that's on the right. Once you're in this room there'll be more dialogue. There is another save point in this room if you wish to use it. I do not. Interact with the shelves in order to find another item. And I head back out and back over the bridge. Interact with the flowing water with the magnet. That will help you pull a metal pipe out, which is the next item that you need. Interact with the next hole in the wall with the metal pipe, and you'll find another item. Next we're going to head back to the south and interact with the electrical item that's in the pool, and that puts another item in your inventory. So you have a fishing pole. Use the fishing pole to get the electrical item out of the actual water. Then move back to the door that you went in before, interact with the computer, and use the power cable on the computer. Exit the room, and the water will be gone from the pool. Make sure you go down the second set of steps, and then go to the south of the area where there's now an interactable object that's sparkling. Interact with that object to find a new item, and then head back out of the pool. At this point you can use the key to unlock the sewer door behind SOMBRIA. A little interaction with SOMBRIA, and then we'll move into the next area. In this next area, for the next trophy, you need to talk to all of the NPCs in this area. So starting with the far left and working towards the far right. So this guy with the stools is the next one. This is number 2. The third one is sat on the stools, so interact with him. Then also make sure that you interact with this guy that's in the south of the area. So guy number 4. Once you finish the dialogue options, the trophy should pop, so talk of the town. And then you can move on to the next bit of the story. Head down these stairs and interact with these apple baskets or boxes. You'll pick up an item and then you can head back out of the room. And now you can interact with the guy sat on the stools with the apple. And that will give you another item. Now we're going to move back towards the start of the area. And we're going to head through the door to the south and interact with this kind of electrical fence looking thing. Use the key to get through the fence and then interact with the door on the left. This will put you in a laundrette waiting room where there'll be some dialogue options that you can skip. Once the dialogue finishes, exit the room and go back to the south of the area. This time we're going to take the road north to exit back into the bathhouse. Interact with the door to have a conversation. And then use the bathhouse key in your inventory in order to unlock the door. This will take us into the next section. Now you'll be back in the bathhouse entranceway again, but it will be more dystopian than it was previously, so head through the door at the north and then through the big hole that's now in the wall. Finish the dialogue and then you'll go back into the same room we were in previously where we offered the demon that particular item. Go and interact with the, I assume, gallows that the demon was in previously. Get the dialogue and then move back to the south and back out of the room. As you move out of the corridor, you'll see the demon's face appear in the gap. Go back into the gap and back to the gallows for a game over. This will give you the next trophy called the Lady on the Wall. At this point, don't press new game, otherwise that will start over. We can use a continue at this point. So we'll go back to restart the chapter. So basically we want to follow the same actions that we've just done, but we won't go back through the door when the demon appears. So head through to the north and through the gap in the wall that was just created. Again, skip the dialogue. And interact with the gallows that the demon was in previously. Or shackles maybe. Come back out of the room as we did initially. And then just simply head all the way to the right. Don't worry about the demon. And go back through the door to the south. This should put us back in the original area where we found the dead fish. And where we were talking with Sombria. Go through the doors to the top left. And you'll find where the butcher was is now a tied up Sombria. Interact with her to find an item. And then exit the room to the south. And again to the south of this room and back to the corridor. And then back into the first door with where the locker room is. And again you'll find Sombria in the middle of a circle. Interact with her. Then run to the other side and get in the circle yourself. Open your inventory. Use the knife. And that will start a little cutscene that you can skip. And once the cutscene's over, you can exit the room to the south. Returning to the original room that we were in. And then back into the butcher's room at the left. Again, there's some more dialogue that we'll be able to skip here with the options button. Interact with the candy bar on the left hand side of the desk in order to unlock the next trophy. I want candy, and you'll be taken to the next scene. Again, once the dialogue has finished, you'll be dropped in the next scene. So the next scene, there is the option to skip again as you're on the back of a lorry heading to the next area. Or it's probably a bus. The next one is called Bus Stop. So for this, you're going to want to head north on the path. And then to the east. Take note of the mushrooms that are scattered around this level, as you'll need to collect them later. There was one in that initial area. Skip the dialogue and you'll find Sombria crying. In the next area, you will find Sombria crying and asking for some food. This is where the mushrooms come in. So you have to, in this next bit, collect all the mushrooms in order to save Sombria. However, first of all, to unlock a trophy, we need to not do that. So we need to collect none of the mushrooms and let her starve, which isn't very nice. Once the dialogue options is finished, just simply stand there. You'll get some more dialogue on the screen. Just ignore it. Until eventually she succumbs to her hunger. This will take a little bit of time for her to actually succumb, but just leave the controller and stare at the screen for a little bit. So I would say that's nearly coming up to the minute that we've already been not collecting the food for her. When we play through this scene the next time, we will actually be collecting the mushrooms. But for this time, there you are, you'll see she'll start to deteriorate, and then eventually she will pass due to not having food. Once the screen fades to black, the trophy I'm So Hungry will unlock. Again, remember to press continue at this point and not press new game, otherwise you will be starting again. So we'll re-enter the scene from the start of the bus stop. So again, we'll need to skip the cutscene at the start and then again move back to the north and to the east. There is a mushroom there, as you can see to the left. And then go and interact with Sombria again. You can see that there is another mushroom slightly to the left of this area again. So that's already 2 of the 5 that we need. This isn't the most tightest time to get all these mushrooms, so you can take your time. I won't take too much time, so I went and go and grab this one first. You can also give them to her one at a time, whereas I choose to collect all 5 and then give them to her all at once. So I head south, and we saw this mushroom earlier, go and pick that up. And then we'll head south again, back to the bus stop where we started. If you go to the far side of the bus stop, there is another mushroom, as you can see here. So this is the 3rd one that we have picked up. You still have the kind of dialogue and the overlay of her on the screen in order to remind you that she is actually suffering. But we've picked up 3 now, so just 2 more to pick up, and these are both to the north. So go back to the north and the west of the area. And there is another mushroom over the bridge and to the left. Pick that up. And then go back out of the area and to the right again. Head north. And then also go to the left and head north again to find another mushroom here. This is the 5th and final mushroom that you will require. So now you can head back to Sombria and feed her all these 5 mushrooms, and that should keep her going for the next segment. So you have to feed them one at once. So this is where you just have to open your inventory and just keep feeding them. This is why you can choose to feed her one at once, but it involves less walking to collect all 5 rather than coming back to her on every occasion. So once you've given her all 5, she'll feel much better. And then after the dialogue, we can get to the next bit of the scene. So once she's disappeared, head to the right and head north. And then continue to head north. We'll enter the next scene. And then you'll see a noodle hut with someone eating a lot of noodles on the left. Not sure what that is. Anyway, we're going to want to go and interact with them to start with. So head next to them and interact with them. Skip through the dialogue. And then go and talk to the person behind the bar of the noodle bar. Once the dialogue is complete, you should get a screen where you've received some noodles. There you are, you've got your item. And then we're going to go out of this area back to the south. Then we're going to go right and south again. And south again. Continue all the way to the left and then go north to the area where we found the 3rd mushroom. And go interact with this strange creature here. Give them the noodles, which should give you a trophy. Now you're finished with this area, you can come back out of it, and we'll go all the way back to the area we've just come from with the noodle bar. So head north, right and north. And then here we are back at the noodle bar. Interact with the big guy again. Give him your last mushroom. which gives you another trophy. I'm going to head out of this area again this time. And back to the bus stop. Once we're at the bus stop, we could talk to SOMBRIA and give her the leaf. This will trigger the next bit of dialogue. There's quite a lot of dialogue in this conversation, and then the scene ends. You'll unlock another trophy for completing this level. My neighbour SOMBORO. And then we'll be into the next section. The majority of this game will be completing each of the different stories at the end. So we are pretty close to actually finishing the main story content of the game. So again, we're on a piece of transport. This looks like a metro car of some description. So we'll go to the south and interact with the door to go to the next carriage. All the way through that carriage and into the next one. And again, all the way down to the next carriage. We've now found ourselves in the driver's area, interact with the engine or the driver, then head back north through the first carriage and into the second carriage. Gonna want to go into the bedroom, and then interact with the bed. This will unlock some more dialogue, and you should get an item at the end. Once you've picked up the item, we can leave the bedroom and go back through the south of the carriage. So we're going back to where the driver is located. And you're going to interact again using the key card to enter the door to allow you access to the driver. Interact with the driver and skip the dialogue. And then we'll move back north and out of the carriage. Through the first carriage and into the second carriage. And then we'll move through this carriage as well. There's quite a lot of this in these next couple of scenes, which isn't great. So we'll move into the toilet or the bathroom. Interact with what looks like SOMBRIA. Then once the dialogue is over, we can simply exit the room and move back to the north. Going through this train carriage and into the next train carriage. Interact with this little thing here. Not sure really what it is. Once the dialogue is finished, give them the key card. That will initiate some more dialogue, and then we can move through as the door is opened to the next bit of the train carriage. Head all the way to the north, and we'll find a weird skeleton thing that will disappear, and we'll be able to go through the door and to the outside for the next bit of dialogue. Once that's complete, we'll head back south and through the door into the next carriage Keep going south. All the way back to the train driver's compartment. On your way, we'll interact with this person that's sat in one of the seats. Complete the dialogue and then just move to the end of the cart. And then you'll find some more dialogue appears. A trophy will appear. You again. And then we can head towards the driver. Interact with the driver. Skip the dialogue again. And then go to this TP. This is a fast travel point for the train, which is great. We'll want to go to the luggage carriage, so in fact we don't have to walk through all those carriages anymore. Then investigate the scene that's in front of us and interact with the computer or switch. Once we've pressed the switch, we will unlock another trophy called pressing buttons. We can then move south and up this ladder. This is a new area on the train. Some more dialogue, and then we'll go on to what looks like a little bit of a dance floor. Or a mosaic floor at least. As the dialogue finishes, we'll need to run away and follow SOMBRIA, chasing her through the train carriage. I'll need to move back towards the driver's cabin again. Unfortunately, the fast travel seems to have disappeared at this point, so we do have to do the walking this time. We'll need to go into the bedroom. I will need to go up to the very top bedroom and interact with the thing in the room. The bedside table. This will unlock a trophy. And then we can exit the bedroom. And exit this train carriage. Now there will be loads of us in this next train carriage, which is kind of creepy. But just move through it. To the south and into the next carriage. We'll find SOMBRIA and the train driver. At this point we need to actually interact with SOMBRIA, so we don't need to do anything with the train driver at this point. So just head north, and SOMBRIA is at the top right hand corner of the room. Interact with her to initiate the next dialogue. Once that dialogue is finished, you'll be taken to the next scene. There will be a very short hospital scene before we move into the actual next scene, which is in the train station. It's called Last Stop. Once you're in the train station, move to the right and up the stairs into the bathroom. Interact with the sink. You'll find the next item. Then we want to come out of the bathroom and go to the left and come into this other room where the elevators are and onto platform 12. Here you'll be greeted with a ghost-like object who will disappear into the wall, and you'll wonder what to do next. This gate in front of you is locked, so we need to figure out how to unlock it. So use the pipe in your inventory on the window to unlock the window and go into the area with the desk. Interact with the old computer. This should then lower the gate, but we do need some power. So interact with the vending machine. You'll find an item. And then we're going to have to go all the way back to the original area that we're in. So back to platform 1 and then through to the lift that's slightly ajar. We're going to place the candy bar in the lift, and then we can simply walk to the left and back onto platform 12, and the gate should open. As the gate opens, we'll have more dialogue, and then we can move into the zone that has just been opened by the gate, and to the right, next to the word die. In this room, we'll find the ghost-like object. Again, skip the dialogue, and then move back to your left. And back to platform 1, where we were originally. Now we're going to go to the south, back to where we started with SOMBRIA, and back into the bathroom. We'll see SOMBRIA is now in one of the stalls, so interact with one of the stall's doors. Then once you've completed this fairly lengthy set of dialogue, we can move to the next part of the chapter. So you've unlocked a new item. And now we can move back out of the bathroom. And back towards platform 1. So through the door to platform 12, sorry. And then back into the area where we were with the ghostly element. And there'll be some more dialogue to skip through. Give the ghost the doll. Again, skip the dialogue, and you reveal another trophy called The Truth Finally Revealed. We'll head back out of the room and we'll interact with the tape over the tunnel. This will give us some more dialogue to skip, and then we'll have another trophy called An Imposter. So we'll go back into the room with the ghost. The ghost will now be gone, but there will be a room that says live. We need to go for the south of there, and in this next area we'll find SOMBRIA and an exit. Interact with the exit to leave this particular story and on to the next chapter. So we're back at the house with SOMBRIA. So this is where we will be playing several times this particular chapter in order to get all of the endings that are in the game. So skip through the dialogue options with SOMBRIA as she heads inside. And then we'll go inside ourselves. Head upstairs to the bedroom. And interact with your door, and then interact with your bed. After the dialogue is complete, you'll be able to move on to the next part. You'll also unlock a trophy called I Can't Stay Awake. And then we'll be back to the main screen, where we can press continue in order to start again from the start of that scene. So that was one of the endings. As we reload, we'll go back into the same scene again at the start with SOMBRIA and ourselves outside the house. Again, just skip through the dialogue options. And this is where we're going to head in several different routes in order to unlock these last trophies and last endings, as I just mentioned. So head to the left and interact with the first bin. We found another bobby pin, and then go back inside. Again, the dialogue is much the same at this point. Go back upstairs. And then we're going to want to go to the left and back, and this little kind of closet area here. Interact with that to find another item. And we'll go back downstairs. Move to the right into the kitchen. Skip the next set of dialogue. I don't always skip all the dialogue. Sometimes I actually press through it. But you can just skip with the option button. So go to the far right and open the door. Again, you'll be in the bathroom. This time you're going to want to interact with the hatch that's on the right with the screwdriver. So that opens the hatch and you can go through it and into the next area. Again, there's some more dialogue with this tied up ghoul here. Then you're going to want to exit the area via the ladders and back into the kitchen. Exit back into the living room and then skip the dialogue and go back upstairs. Go to the right and try and enter the door. You'll have to use the bobby pin in order to get into the room where you'll find SOMBRIA hanging. At this point, the next trophy will be unlocked, called the loop, and the screen will fade to black. You can start again using the continue. Again, don't press new game or you will have to start again. We'll start as we did in the previous time, outside the house. Again, you're going to want to interact with the bin to get the bobby pin. And go back inside. Go upstairs and interact with the objects, the closet type object. Trunk maybe, to get the item that we need. Go back downstairs and into the kitchen. Again, we can skip the conversation in the kitchen. And we're going to move into the room that in the far right, as previously done, so the bathroom. Again, we're going to open the hatch with the screwdriver and interact with this tied up ghoul. This time we're going to pick up the shovel on the far right, and then we're going to leave the room. Got all the way back to the entrance to the house. And outside to the garden. Got all the way to the carrot patch on the far left and use the shovel to dig in the carrot patch. We'll find the butcher's knife in the carrot patch. And that's our newest item, so go back in the house. We will then go and interact with the person by the stairs, give them the knife, skip through the dialogue options and they will end up no more. Then we'll head back upstairs, look for SOMBRIA's room. Again, we'll need the bobby pin to open the door. Once we've done that, we'll find SOMBRIA in a much better situation. Again, there will be some quite lengthy dialogue between yourself and SOMBRIA at this point. You'll end up back in the kitchen with some more dialogue. This bit of dialogue you actually can't skip. But you'll end up unlocking a trophy called the last page. So now we'll be entering a different scene. So this is one we haven't seen before, where we're in a diner. Again, you can skip the dialogue using the options button. And this brings us all the way to the ending and the final credits. We'll go back to the main screen. You'll notice that a chapter select is now available, but we still need to choose continue in order to go back to the scene at the start at the front of the house. Again, this scene will be familiar. Once we've loaded in, we'll go and interact with the bin to get their bobby pin. Once inside the house, we'll head up the stairs and interact with the trunk under the picture again to get the next item. And then we'll go back downstairs and into the kitchen. Again, we can skip this dialogue and we'll go into the bathroom. Use the bobby pin to open the hatch. Use the screwdriver to open the hatch. But this time do not go through it and instead interact with the sink. This will open up a dialogue box of which you have to write some letters in. I do mess up on the first occasion here by reopening the inventory, which then closes down what I have to do. So just re-interact with the sink or the mirror, and that will again bring up these boxes in which you have to interact with. The first set of letters we will put in are A, S, H, I, N, A, or Ashina. Once you've entered these, this will trigger some more dialogue to appear on the screen. And then we can move to the next area through the hatch like we have previously. So enter the hatch and we'll go back to the scene with the tied up demon. Again, we'll pick up the shovel. I think you know what we're going to do at this point. We're going to go all the way back to the outside and dig up the carrot patch. So up through the ladder, out of the door, through the kitchen area. This time I do interact with the fridge, with the picture on. Remember the picture from earlier in the game. And then skip the conversation with the lady by the stairs, go all the way back outside and dig up the carrot patch as I mentioned originally. Again, you will find the butcher's knife at this point. We can head back inside. Once back inside, we can go and interact with the female by the stairs again. Give her the knife. And skip the dialogue. Go back upstairs. Back to Sombria's room. Use the bobby pin on the door to the room. Again, interact with Sombria. This time 2 ghosts will appear, one blue, one red, and we'll end up in the hospital scene that we briefly saw between scenes. There will be some interaction to do, so once the dialogue is finished, you'll be in control of Sombria and you'll need to move to the south. Into the foyer of the hospital and then again to the south via the stairs and keep going to the south and out of the front door. Now it's super important at this point that you stay to the left hand side. You must not go to the right hand side, otherwise this won't work. So we'll simply need to open our inventory and get out the cigarettes and have a little bit of a smoke outside the hospital. Some dialogue will appear. As usual, you can just skip through that dialogue. Once the dialogue has finished, we'll head back inside. Back to the north, back into the room where we were originally, which is to the left, through the doorway. And there'll be some more dialogue to come. After a long amount of dialogue, the screen will fade to black and the trophy will unlock. Then you have to go through the diner scene and the swing scene again to get the credits, and then we'll start again with the next scene. So again, you want to go to continue. And again, we'll be back outside the home at the beginning of this scene. Pretty much know what we need to do, at least most of this scene. So we'll go and we'll get the bobby pin from the bin. And then we'll go back inside. Go up the stairs and interact with the trunk under the picture to get the other item. Then we'll go back downstairs into the kitchen, skip the dialogue, go into the bathroom, interact with the sink or mirror. I'm going to put in ASHINA or Ashina, which we did previously, and that should unlock the same dialogue that we had in the previous time we'd played through this scene. Again, open the hatch with the screwdriver. I'm going to go through it into the scene with the tied up demon, pick up the shovel. And again, we'll go back to the carrot patch in order to dig it up to find the butcher's knife. So exit the bathroom. Again, we'll interact with the kitchen fridge before we move through the kitchen and into the next area. Skip the dialogue with the woman by the stairs and head outside. Dig up the carrot patch with the spade, shovel. And then pick up the butcher's knife and go back inside. Interact with the girl, hand her the knife. Then go upstairs. Got into Sombria's room using the bobby pin. We're essentially going to go back to the same hospital scene that we saw previously. After conversations have finished, we will head outside as we did in the previous time we played this little story. However, this time it is important that we stay to the right of the outside area. Otherwise, again, it won't work. So we're going to go south here down the stairs, continue going south until we get to the outside. And then we're going to stick to the right. So if move from the centre to the right. And then open your inventory and have a smoke. This will trigger a slightly different version when we enter the building again. Once you've entered the building, you'll see it's immediately different. There's a lot of blood on the floor. And if we go back into the room that we were originally in, you'll see there's a very different scene in front of us. Again, just go through the dialogue. This will unlock the trophy. Only eyes can tell the truth. And then we'll do the credits and go back to continue once again. There are quite a lot of endings at the end of this, so this bit does get very repetitive when you are playing it, unfortunately. It's probably the worst bit of the game, that they cram so many endings in. But we're near the end now, so we're back at the house, so go get the bobby pin. Go inside. Head upstairs and go to the box under the picture. So unlock the screwdriver, then we'll go back downstairs and into the kitchen. Again, skip the dialogue in here. We'll go into the bathroom again. Open the hatch and go through it. This time we're not interacting with the mirror. So go to the demon. Pick up your mum's shovel. Gonna go back to the carrot patch outside again. So back up the ladder. Through the doorway. And then back through the kitchen eventually. At this point I do accidentally walk past the fridge, so I have to skip the dialogue in the next scene, then go back to interact with the fridge. Naughty me getting it wrong there. Once you've interacted with the fridge, go back and go outside. Over to the carrot patch to use the shovel on the carrot patch to dig up the butcher's blade. Once we've headed back inside, we will go straight into the kitchen. So we are doing something different this time. And go to the bathroom. Go to the hatch where the demon is. Interact with the demon, but use the knife on the demon. You'll get another item. Head back out of this bathroom. And back out into the hallway. Interact with the person by the stairs and use the knife again. We'll go back upstairs and use the bobby pin to enter Sombria's room. This is the bit where we have the same interactions that we have with Sombria as previous. You may remember this from one of the earlier endings, so we've gone back into the kitchen, there's some more dialogue to skip. And this time you'll unlock the trophy, A Mother's Heart Knows Best. So now we've just got the final 3 trophies to go. Once we've been through the diner scene and the swing set scene, we will go back to the start. This time we'll be using the chapter select rather than the continue function we had used previously. Again, this ending is slightly different and does have a slightly different bit of the cutscene to it. You go back to the demon in the basement who has some dialogue. So you're going to want to chapter select, chapter 2. And then we're back in the doctor's room, or the therapist's room, should I say. So when we got the doll out of the toy box last time, you're going to do something slightly different this time. So rather than interact with the toy box, interact with the brain on the far right and pick that up. And then give the brain to the therapist. Skip through the dialogue, Sombria will arrive and you chose the brain will unlock. So now there's just one final trophy to go before the platinum. So exit the room to the south and then exit the next room also to the south and you will get a dialogue. So go back to the bathroom, interact with the toilet, again try and interact to get out of the bathroom. The door is now locked and the bathroom fills with blood. The last trophy will unlock, I'm sorry Sombria, and then there is the platinum. Thank you for watching this How To Trophies platinum walkthrough today. Hope you enjoyed it. Please leave us a like, share or subscribe, and we'll see you soon.